Well, there's good news and bad news. The good news is my bluegrass band has a gig this weekend. The bad news is we missed a practice, and all I have is this funny diagram for the new song they added to the set list. I need help. I need Music Student 101 with Jeremy Burns and Matthew Scott Phillips.
Okay, did you recognize that intro music, Matt?
From Oh Brother Where Art Thou, yes, and not just from that, but that is a classic gospel hymn. It is it's got a long, proud history.
Yep, it was made famous by Ralph Stanley, the Stanley brothers, and it's traditional. So we're going to be using that as an example later on as we talk about
chord charts.
Chord charts.
Yeah.
What are we, 54 episodes in?
And we just now got to useful information.
Yeah.
So yeah, congratulations.
Practical information.
Practical, utilitarian. Oh crap! I've got to play this song with these people, and I've never played it before. Kind of information.
And that happens all around the world, all the time, amongst bands and musicians.
You would be amazed. You know, it's funny how in a field like music where there's so much value placed on rehearsal and practice, and doing something till you get it right. It's a little bit of a disconnect when you sort of starts taking those first steps into professional music world, and somebody starts throwing stuff at you, throwing music at you, and say, "Here, let's go play this," and you just get to go play that. You know, a lot of orchestras, you're hearing them play symphonies, and they may have rehearsed it once or twice. In some cases, they may have just gone through the hard parts. You know, because their schedules are so loaded with stuff, and then they're going out and playing, this extremely complicated music. So it's good to know how to do that, and hopefully we'll shed a little light on how that happens.
Yes, and in the case of a symphony musician or of somebody doing that kind of thing, they're reading notation,
right,
off the paper, and so. But what we're actually talking about here is reading chord charts,
right? Which if you're playing in rock bands or some jazz bands, or depending on what instrument you play, sometimes you're going to have these kind of things, and they're kind of shorthand for what you're supposed to be doing.
Right. Yeah.
And so they leave some room for improvisation.
Exactly.
But it's basically just sort of the chord structure of the song, and yeah.
Right. So before we get into these chord charts, let's talk about some of our fellow musicians, shall we?
Let's do that.
We always like to see a new review.
Indeed.
Shall I read this one?
Please do.
Okay. This is, I got this on iTunes, of course. A big thanks for producing this podcast. I'm a medical doctor who changed careers a few years back into piano and ukulele teaching, composition, and I'm studying creative arts and a music degree.
Oh, wow.
Sounds like a Renaissance person.
Yeah, really. Yeah.
I am a theory nut.
Oh, nice.
My kind of person. And love the way you explain music theory in such an accessible way. I wish I had access to all of your tips on melodic and harmonic dictation back when I started my degree. Life could have been much easier. Keep up the good work, Chris from South Australia.
Thank you so much, Chris. Yeah, I wish I had these tips back when I started my first music degree too.
Me too.
A lot of the harmonic dictation sort of tips and tricks I know I've gathered over just years of trying to build up this skill and maintain it and teach it to other people, and it's good to have. It's good to have knowledge.
Knowledge is good.
Generally.
So thanks again, Chris from South Australia.
Thank you so much.
If this is who I think it is, we've actually been writing back and forth a little bit. So
okay.
He's been very engaged in the podcast.
Oh, good.
Great new fan to have.
Great to hear. Yeah.
We also have
a new Patreon. Yay!
Yeah, man.
Always love that.
New Patreon patron.
Yes, and this new Patreon patron is named Jack Regali. And Jack says, Jeremy and Matt, I wanted to thank you for a wonderfully eye-opening and mind-blowing podcast. I had been taking guitar instruction for about 12 years. My teacher taught me lots of information on music theory, but I just wasn't grasping it. And haven't we all? been there.
Yeah.
Haven't we all felt that? I felt like whenever I asked him a question, he would try to explain it, but that would just lead to more questions. Yeah, doesn't it ever, though?
Yeah, right?
Doesn't it ever? You guys are explaining this in a way that is just clicking with me. I was never taught the order of sharps and flats. Well, that's sacrilege. And to me, this is mind-blowing. I can now find a key very quickly, unlike before when I had to sit down and write everything out in my band. I started at 18, played in bands, and left music at 30 thinking my time as a musician was over.
Nah.
Yeah, come on, man. It's just beginning. Just beginning.
There we are.
Now you know enough stuff to actually enjoy it.
Yeah.
I am now 44 and recently transitioned over to the bass. Yay! Our favorite instrument. Yay, bass.
Did we mention that we're both bass players at some
I
point?
think it might have come up once or twice that we're both bass players.
Yeah.
Once or twice an episode. I mean,
But we digress.
yeah. I love the bass, and I am now in a band writing original rock music. Awesome.
Yeah.
I love where this podcast is going and can't wait to hear more about song structure and modulation. Thanks again, and keep up the good work. Oh, and the digression is great. It brings out your personalities and makes the podcast more entertaining. Well, thanks, Jack. I'm glad. The digression seemed to be popular.
Isn't that fortunate?
Isn't that fortunate? Because it's not on purpose.
No. We don't write digressions.
We don't have digress written in our show notes or anything. It just kind of happens. We just got to start talking. But yeah, so much about that. I love that Jack is sticking with it. I love this story of how, you hit 30 and you think, okay, this is as far as I can go musically. And turns out that's not the case, right? This is a lifelong process of becoming a better musician.
Lifelong.
And that's what's good about it. It'll never be over. You'll never get to where, I've learned everything there is to know and now I'm bored and have to go do something. That never happens. There's always more stuff to be turning out. Yeah, didn't teach the order of sharps and flats. How, just,
Oh, but I didn't really, I wasn't taught that until I was into college. We did choir, I think, in high school.
Yeah.
And we did a few music lessons, but they didn't get into theory like that.
Yeah, sometimes at that stage, choir directors or guitar teachers, or they're trying to just teach you enough to get you to be able to play your favorite song.
Yeah.
Or to be able to sing in the upcoming concert without embarrassing yourself and them by extension, and they're just trying to just get you knowing enough to where you can sort of But then when you want to grow as a musician, you need more knowledge, and yeah, the order of sharps and flats are something everybody has to know. So glad to have helped you get that. Yeah, when I learned the sharps and flats, it was pretty mind blowing too.
And I assume Jack might have heard the episode on major scales and key signatures.
Sounds like it.
Where we gave that information.
Yes, and so anyone else out there who doesn't have that information, definitely go back and check that episode out. It was one of the early ones, 5.
Way early, yeah.
Yeah, 5 or 6, something like that. Definitely go back and check that out. My mind was really blown when I realized that the order of flats was just the order of sharps backwards.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. And for those of you who want to really refresh your course, Big Ed and Dan go camping frequently.
Yeah. Oh, gosh. Yes, I remember that.
And then, I don't know, fat cows
get drunk after eating breakfast.
There we go.
Yeah, was the one I knew. Yeah, that was back when we were trying not to digress.
No.
Now we just digress, and
Well, let's get back to our listeners then, shall we?
Digression.
We have listener mail. We have Wilson Apollo from Waterloo, Ontario, Canada.
Nice.
Hey, Canada.
Hey, Canada.
Canada is the next to the United States is our biggest listening pool. English speaking. Sure. Oh, Canada. So graceful, Matt.
Okay, no, all right, we get it.
That's for you, Wilson. He says, hey guys, I just started listening to your podcast and have been really enjoying it. I'm an amateur classical guitarist and I'm fairly strong at sight reading.
Oh, good.
Should be after this many years, says he. But I'm a bit lacking in my music theory knowledge. Are there any books that are quite accessible that you could suggest? Or would I be better off going with one of the apps you mentioned in episode 4, is the question. Good question, Wilson.
Good question indeed, and thank you for that. That's probably something a lot of people could get some guidance on. The apps we mentioned in episode 4 are definitely good.
Yeah.
They're definitely good for working up the knowledge that you've gotten from somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of books that could help with theory knowledge. One of the reasons Jeremy and I decided to do this podcast in the first place was that that information is sadly not readily available. In
the mainstream.
In the mainstream, yeah. There is a book on basic musicianship, and I believe it's called Basic Musicianship, written by Theodore Lynn. That's Lynn.
Uh-huh.
And it does a fairly decent job of explaining the major scales, the minor scales, how chords are derived from those scales, and things like that, how intervals work and what they do, and of course how to read and sight read and all that, and that's pretty good. That may be stuff that Wilson already knows because he's been playing guitar for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Beyond that, and beyond, like, there's a great little sort of music theater. There's a great sort of little music theory breakdown at the front of a book called The Guitar Grimoire, by Adam Cadman. It's fairly popular, and I think you can get it in some version even today. And he has a version called Scales and Modes, and the bulk of the book is just listing every possible scale and mode on the guitar. Has a little fingering chart for it, and it's very exhaustive. And in the beginning of that book, he has a little breakdown of how scales work. And then there's another one called Chords and Charts, and is the same thing. It has a sort of a breakdown of how chords work in the beginning, theory-wise, and then a sort of every possible chord.
So, what is a grimoire? Is that like a sad memory?
Yeah, I think I could be wrong on this, so somebody call me on it if I'm wrong. I think grimoire sort of referred to like just a big tome of text in the Middle Ages or something.
Sounds right. Shall I Google that?
Why not? We don't have to be wrong about anything anymore.
No, we don't.
We have all of humanity's knowledge in our pocket.
I don't know how to spell it though.
Grimmoire.
O-I-R-E. Grimoire. A book of magic spells and invocations.
Oh, there you go.
Even better.
That's even better, yeah.
I wonder if they talk about the circle of fifths.
They do talk about the circle of fifths, and it's even got a circle of fifths symbol on the cover that they've done up all magic-y, like.
Ooh, the magical, wonderful circle of fifths.
Yeah. It kind of looks like a ritual incantation, the circle of fifths, and when you look at it, look at the whole thing. So.
Or when you look at your wall, because you have a circle of fifths clock.
I have a circle of fifths clock.
And I'm still jealous about that.
Yes, and it can be all, it's C-sharp 30. Time to
C-sharp 30.
Time for dinner.
Wilson, I use tonal harmony a pretty good bit, and I also, lately I've been kind of leaning more towards harmony and context by Miguel Roig Francoli.
Yep.
But the other one, tonal harmony by Koska and Dorothy Payne.
Dorothy Koska, yeah. Or Stephen Koska and Dorothy Payne.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, Payne.
That's kind of, if you really want a textbook, that's a textbook.
Yeah, and that's a textbook. That's a college textbook.
Mm-hmm.
And so, we're mentioned that are quite accessible. That book, Tonal Harmony, is as accessible as any college textbook is going to get.
Yeah. And I'd say this, I got my harmony and context book over there on eBay for, I guarantee, way less than you would pay in a college bookstore.
Oh yeah, oh absolutely, yeah. And get one of the earlier editions that cost less, and yeah, definitely. I don't know how accessible those are, but those are definitely the next step in getting good information.
Yeah.
Sadly, like I said, one of the reasons we're doing this podcast is this information can be a little hard to come by for aspiring musicians that are not college students.
Yeah.
So there's that. If anybody else has any other resources, please email us and let us know, because I would be very interested in knowing what they are, so I can recommend them to other people.
Right. Absolutely. Well, thanks again, Wilson. Thank you, Jack Regali, for our donation.
Yes.
And thank you, Chris, for our review.
Yes, thank you all so much. Glad to hear that it is helpful.
Yep. All right, man. So let's get into our chord charts episode.
Chord charts. Yay.
I can't even remember the first time I used the chord chart, but I know that even before I got into college, when I was in high school trying to learn music on my own, I got the Pink Floyd book and the Beatles books.
Yep.
And those are lead sheets. We're going to talk about 3 different things today. We're going to talk about just kind of regular standard chord charts.
Right.
That I would make shift from time to time. And then we're going to talk about lead sheets.
Lead sheets, yeah.
And then the Nashville Number System.
Yeah.
Which I had to learn about. I was introduced to it a while ago, but I had to get a little refresher course. And
Right,
we'll talk about that.
Yeah. Yeah, and Jeremy deals with these things a lot more in his career than I do in mine, so Jeremy is the expert for today.
When you're in a band and you're the only one that knows how to write chord charts.
Guess who writes the chord charts?
Guess who writes chord charts? That's not the case with any of the bands that I'm in now, but in past bands.
In past bands, yeah.
Yeah, man.
You were talking about, I don't remember the first time I ever saw a chord chart. I think the first time I ever saw a chord chart was when I was a teenager. And, just one of my friends, we were trying to play together in a band and trying to learn the song. And he's like, yeah, it goes like this. And just, wrote it down on a piece of paper and threw it at me.
Oh, yeah.
and so that was sort of a, prototype makeshift chord chart, these things are all very basic ways that musicians communicate with each other quickly.
There is I guess we'll go ahead and get into lead sheets first, huh?
Okay.
Lead sheets, like I said, it's basically on one sheet of paper if possible. They try and get it as in a small amount of space as possible. They will have the melody. And then they'll have the chords hanging over it. And sometimes they'll have if it's a guitar lead sheet, they'll have like diagrams of what the chords are on the top end, of the page.
With it's a little graphic of the guitar neck with the little dots where your fingers are supposed to go to make those chords.
Exactly. So you have everything you need right there. And you got the melody, you have the chords, you got the timing. The melody, the rhythms are implied in the melody because it is usually standard notation. Implied. They're there. They're not implied. They're there.
The melodic rhythm, at least, is definitely there.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess one good way to do this is, and I'm not happy about this, but I'm going to sing for you guys.
Yay.
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 We have a lead sheet. I went through the Bluegrass Fake book. I wanted to find a traditional piece of music, right? Because we're always ever nervous about getting sued, right?
Yes, please don't sue. You can't sue us for this. This is public domain.
Public domain.
So, yeah.
And that was the song you heard at the beginning of the episode. Angel Band. I got this from the Bluegrass Fake book by Bert Casey.
Okay.
Which is the bluegrass equivalent of
the jazz fake book.
Yeah.
Which
I have right here.
Yeah, so a little story about the word fake book.
Yeah, please.
Well, I was going to ask you for one.
Oh, yeah?
So how did it become known as the fake book?
I was hoping you would know that, Matt.
Well, I mean, I know the basic idea was that, you can sort of fake playing these things. It's not actual sheet music, but it's the chords and the melody, so you can sort of fake quote unquote your way along to actually playing the stuff.
Yeah, it wouldn't be the original score,
right?
Of all the parts,
right?
It would include, as I look at my jazz reel book here.
Yep.
It's 484 pages.
And typically one song to a page, one song every 1 or 2 pages. So a lot of stuff.
Yeah, and basically in this case, it's got what looks like the melody for, you can get it for bass, guitar, piano,
Sure,
whatever.
Yeah.
But here it has the melody with the chords hanging over the measures
Right.
where the chord changes would occur.
So when somebody is singing that, when you get to the new bar and there's a new chord, you change to that chord. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so everybody kind of stays together in that way.
Exactly. So you're counting the measures, you're changing the chords where you see the chord changes.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, if you are driving 70 miles an hour down the interstate, maybe pull over and check this out because you will need to check out the website, musicstudent101.com. Click on the podcast and go to episode 54, this episode, where you can actually listen along on the web page, but you also want to see these graphics because it's hard to talk. It's hard to really audibly talk about this. I don't know if that makes any sense.
It's hard in a pure audio format to get what we're saying.
Exactly.
You have to sort of describe what's going on. But that's a pretty good one. The lead sheets you have the melody and the lyrics if there are lyrics. Mm-hmm. Sometimes, not all the time. But at least the main melody overlaid with chord symbols above it.
Right.
Yeah.
So if you want to check out this graphic, it's the Angel Band lead sheet. You'll see the notation on the top, and then you'll see the lyrics on the bottom. And Matt, I'm going to play this on guitar and sing it for you so you can kind of get an idea of how it works, and you could read along. Mm-hmm. Matt is going to accompany...
Yes, be very afraid. So, I am guessing here that we are in the key of G.
This is the key of G.
I'm not guessing, I know, because with a lead sheet we have a key signature, don't we?
Yes, we do. Oh, and I want to make a quick note here. I took a couple of liberties here.
Okay.
This song is a waltz, okay? Mm-hmm, it's in 3/4. But in order to save a little space on the paper, I made it in 6/4.
Okay.
So you can fit 2 measures worth in 1 measure.
Good job.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, so it might be a little easier to digest that way. So Angel Band, key of G. Oh, and also I threw an E minor in there, and I'll explain that why later on. But the original song doesn't have an E minor towards the end.
Jeremy's being creative.
I'm being creative, yeah.
All right.
And why did I think E minor would be such a good substitute for G?
Why did Jeremy think E minor would be such a good substitute for G? Well, those 2 chords share at least 2 notes in common, don't they? So G and B is in both of them. Mm-hmm. The only thing that has to change is rather than playing a D along with my G and B, if it was a G major chord, I will play an E instead. Yeah. Mm-hmm. You might have also noticed that E minor is the 6th chord in the key of G. Mm-hmm. You know, so so 6 generally is a good substitute for 1. That's one of the roles the 6th chord can play, right? Is to sort of substitute for 1.
Exactly.
As in a deceptive cadence and in other ways too.
Yep.
You know, so yeah, I think that was a good job. E minor is a very good substitute for G.
And I thought statistically there was a very good chance of it still fitting the melody, and I was right. It still fits the melody.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've put this off too long.
Okay.
I'm trying to digress my way out of doing this.
Not gonna happen.
Not gonna happen. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and play this for you guys, and Matt is gonna bust out the organ.
The Hammond B3 organ sound.
Yeah.
How do you not love the sound of that? Okay.
You don't not love the sound of that.
You don't not love the sound of that.
You just love it. Okay, you ready? This is Angel Band. I'm going to give, and go ahead and read along if you will, on the website, on the graphic. This is, we're going to do 2 measures of 6/4 to start it off, and then we'll be on in it. You ready?
Ready.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 2, 2, 3, 4. My latest sun is sinking fast. My race is nearly run. My longest trials now are past. My triumph has begun. Oh, come, angel band, come and around me stand. Bear me away on your snow white wings to my immortal home. Bear me away on your snow Lovely.
Yeah, that was nice. Nobody ever accused me of being a piano player, but I can read a chord chart.
Nor me a vocalist, but we got through it, didn't we?
Yeah, we did.
Okay, so what you just heard, you could have been following along and reading the melody as I sang. You could have been singing along because you have it all right here on the lead sheet. And you can sing the whole song, verse and chorus, because it's all right there, and it's beautiful.
And that's a great song. I really like that song.
Yeah, me too. Me too. Mm-hmm. So you like that ice?
You still need to do an outtakes episode someday.
Oh, no. We're ever building our outtakes episode.
All right.
So that was the lead sheet.
That was a lead sheet.
Now, we are going to talk about the chord chart.
Chord charts.
So I will direct your attention to the website and the graphic that I hand wrote myself here on a piece of paper with my pencil. And of course, I used a pencil.
Always use a pencil.
Always use a pencil.
Music is not written in pen. Yeah. You wouldn't do a New York Times crossword puzzle in pen. Don't,
No.
don't do this.
No. But now you can see, if you look at Angel Band 1, number 1, you can see on the top of the page, I have the verse.
Mm-hmm.
And you see I did go ahead and put down 6/4. It's in
Right.
6/4. So each measure gets the 6 counts.
Mm-hmm.
So you got the G, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, C, 2, 3, G, 2, 3,
Yeah.
and so on.
And this is fairly typical. So when you see, if you're in 6/4 and you see 2 chords, C and G, then those two are basically splitting those in half, right?
Exactly.
So there'll be C for 3 beats and G for 3 beats, and then in the next measure, G for 3 beats and D for 3 beats, and in that last measure, G for 6 beats. So whenever you see 2, that's splitting the measure in half. If you saw 6 chords there would be a chord on every beat, and people would look at it and go, "What are you doing?"
God save you.
Yeah, right. But that could be a thing you see, So. And if you were in 4/4, then splitting the measure in half would mean 2 beats per chord, right? So this is why it's important to know the meter and sort of think through these things. But yeah, fairly typical.
And another thing you're going to notice is there's the I've kind of separated these by these bars, by these lines here. Mm-hmm. The opening line is 2 lines on the very left of the first measure, right there by the verse.
Yes.
You see 2 lines and the double dots.
Yes.
And then at the end of this line, by the G chord, on the right of the page, you'll see 2 double dots and 2 lines.
Yes.
What does that mean?
That means repeat that line.
Exactly.
So, and you may have noticed this. Did you do it with the lead sheet too?
I did, actually.
Okay, yeah. So you may have noticed this with the lead sheet also, is that first line we played twice. Because and we're told to do that by those double dots enclosing the part of the song that we're supposed to play twice.
Exactly, because the length of the verse is just the repetition of this line.
Yeah.
Twice.
Yes.
Now, as we move on to the chorus.
That's a time and paper saving thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, and you see the chorus notated by the C with a circle around it.
Right, for chorus.
For chorus. And, we go to 5.
We go to 5. Good old D.
Good old D. Yeah, I guess we don't want to talk about Roman numerals just yet. Spoiler alert. We'll get into that. And it carries on. It actually has 3 lines, and
It has 3 lines.
And it has double lines also, but there's not double dots.
Right. So this is only played once.
Exactly.
And wow, this makes such a beautiful little simple binary, doesn't it? Listen to a beautiful little simple sectional binary, doesn't it?
It is appropriate that we're actually doing this because we just got through talking about forms.
Yeah. Sorry, but my theory brain exploded at the but yeah. So we have an A repeated in the B. A, which doesn't repeat, but it's because it kind of becomes the same length, or double the length of the A when you repeat the A. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it becomes a simple sectional binary where A is closed, ending on a cadence, and then B is also closed, and A doesn't come back.
And if that's Greek to you, you probably want to check out our episodes on form and analysis, part 1 and part 2.
Right, which was the most recent episode was part 2, and then part 1 was episode.
20, I think.
20,
actually.
yeah, okay, yeah.
Can't believe I remember this stuff. It's funny the things you remember and don't remember.
It is. It really is.
Okay, so anyways, one more thing I'll say about this standard chord chart is there's this woman named Amy Nolte, Amy Nolte Music, and she did this really kind of cute little YouTube video where she talks about how to make a chord chart on the fly. And she presents a scenario where she's sitting in the In-N-Out Burger enjoying her animal fries, and her sister calls her up and says, "Hey, me and my friend are working on this Elton John song. Can you make us a chord chart?" And so she actually grabs this little bill, like this little from her mail, and flips it over and proceeds to make the chord chart.
Right,
and
yeah.
kind of explains it as she goes. She did something a little different than I do, though. I want to direct your attention to Angel Band 2.
2. Ah, yes.
What Amy was doing, and what sometimes I do as well, was this time you see we're up Angel Band 1, I put just one measure of G, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that was just assume that's 6 counts.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Makes
sense.
Yeah, but if you want to really get detailed about the meter, you would do like she did, which is kind of like what do we have here in Angel Band 2.
Mm-hmm.
Everything's the same, only per measure you have a G and then you have 5 little slashes.
Meaning beat 1
Is the
G, and then that G will persist through the rest of those little slashes. Those little slashes mean beats.
They'll just hold the count per beat. Yep.
Yeah, and then in the next measure, C // so C 2 3 G // 5 6. So C 2 3 G 5 6. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it means the exact same thing. She's just being a little more specific about exactly how many beats each of these chords lasts.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Which can definitely be helpful.
Very helpful. So check out the video. I'm sure you'll be informed and entertained alike. It's called "How to Write a Chart on the Fly" by Amy Nolte of Amy Nolte Music, and that's on YouTube that I found that. And I'll put a link on our site because it really is a cool video. Now let me direct your attention to Angel Band 3. Matt, my printer just took a crap.
Okay.
So I don't think you have that.
All right,
one.
that's fine.
But basically, what it is it's the same thing with the Roman numeral analysis.
Ah, okay.
So instead of G up there at the first measure, I have a 1.
Yeah.
And then I have a 4.
Uh-huh.
And in this version, I kind of made a little bit of both. I kind of put a little bit of what she was doing and a little bit of what I was doing because I actually made 6 slashes on the top of the measure.
I see. Okay.
Over the 1.
Yeah.
So, and likewise, the next measure, you got 3 little slashes over the 4 and then 3 little slashes over the 1.
Right, yeah.
Giving them each 3 beats.
Yeah, the big difference here being instead of saying the actual chord name, we're giving scale degrees.
Mm-hmm.
So 1 2 3 4 5 6 4 2 3 1 5 6.
Yeah,
right? Yeah. Lots of fun. I can think of one huge advantage to this right off the top of my head.
What you got?
We could then play it in any key.
Any key, yeah.
Right? So if you were good enough at your keys and you had learned Angel Band in G, but all of a sudden wanted to play it in D major.
Okay.
Yeah.
1 2 3 4 5 6. 1 2 3 4 1 1 5 1 and so on.
Yeah, right. So you could if you're good with your keys, then it doesn't matter what key you have to play it in. With this way, you know what's going on. It's also really going to help you get good with keys, right? Get good with knowing where 4 is in any key and knowing where 5 is in any key.
That's a good point.
It'll really help you associate and start thinking in terms of scale degrees, not thinking in terms of chords. And then that's going to help your theory brain a lot.
Exactly. And
So,
we get well into these Roman numerals here. And actually, this segues quite well into the Nashville Number System. But before I get into that, I'll say one more thing. I'm going to direct your attention to the graphic that says form on it. You'll see form, colon, and then you will see
VC, VC, VCC.
Exactly. So in this case, you got the verse, the chorus, the verse, chorus, verse, double chorus at the end.
Double chorus at the end, which is a very big part of this sort of the gospel and spiritual tradition, right? Is to end with that last singing of the chorus.
Gosh, and lots of rock and pop music too, if you think about it.
Yeah, well, they got it from yeah.
That's true. Yeah, it all came from somewhere.
Yeah, because the chorus being the most singable and thought of as the most singable and the most enjoyable part, and you're singing in church, and let's sing our favorite part that one last time, and so.
Man, that was so good. Let's just do it again.
Let's just do it again. Yeah. So, and people clue in once they're singing the chorus twice. It's almost time to stop singing.
So you have everything you need here on one page. You have what the verse is, you have what the chorus is, and then you have the arrangement of how it all goes throughout the entire song.
Oh, yeah.
All on this lovely one piece of paper.
Yeah, and when you get good enough at thinking on your feet, you could sit down and play this song completely out of the blue, right? You do not have had to practice this. You have not had to be in a room with all the other musicians going, hey, it goes to this, and then it goes to that, and then it goes to that.
Yeah.
You know, you can just get tossed a lead sheet and say, do this.
Yeah.
And you'll be within the realm of correctness, right? Obviously, it leaves a lot of room for improvisation about what exactly you're going to do while you're on a G chord. You know, I'm on an instrument that is not my instrument, and I'm extremely conservative. I'm just playing the chord. You know, but yeah, you could do other things if you thought it was more appropriate. If you were playing bass and you thought it was more appropriate to walk up to C, you know, there's that room, that level of improvisation there. Absolutely. That room for improvisation. That full sheet music, you know, you're supposed to just play the notes that are there.
So a lot of times when jazz musicians get together, some of them have never played together before. But I like this guy's chops. I want to try and get together with him. And then they'll just bust out this 400-page real fake book. And for the first time, nail it.
Hear the changes. And they will solo over those changes too. You know?
Right.
They'll be looking at the changes on the jazz people call them the changes, but yeah, they'll be looking at their chord chart. And they'll, and be soloing and reading the chord chart and making really elaborate and musically virtuosic solos to go over these chord changes. It's really incredible.
Yeah,
it's really a high level of musicianship with these guys.
It seems to be kind of a standard thing to like play the piece one time through and then pass the solos around. Play it through each time, but each time someone takes a solo, and at the end they all bring it back together.
Yeah.
What do you say? They point at their head?
Yeah, they point at the head, meaning back to the head, meaning back to the main melody of the thing.
Yeah.
And then they'll play that once and be out. Yeah.
So that's the beauty of a chord chart. If you don't know how to make one, now you do. Now let's talk about this crazy thing called the Nashville Number System, shall we?
Please, let's.
Pause for page turn.
Pause for page turn.
Okay, so the first time I was introduced to the Nashville Number System was from my friend Jason Bailey.
Okay.
Jason Bailey is the mandolinist for the band Tonal Vision that I play in. One of the greatest mandolin players I know, man. Great guy. And he moves back and forth from Birmingham to Nashville. He teaches here in Birmingham, and then he'll play in Birmingham, and he'll go up to Nashville and gig for the weekend. So I think he's been kind of immersed in that situation, in that scene. So let's see here. I kind of checked out this video. And there's this guy on YouTube. There's a video called Nashville Number System, an Introduction by Six String Country. Is the name of the people. This, they didn't say the host's name, the guy teaching, but is this cool guy with a really blonde beard. So blonde beard, cool guy, thanks a lot. I wish I knew your name so I can give you a little credit for this. But they gave a little bit of history. You know, it kind of came out back in the 60s. Everyone was going to Nashville to record.
Right.
Not unlike they did to Muscle Shoals in Alabama, not too far after that. But some really big names, Leonard Cohen, Bob Dylan. But a lot of these people were coming out to Nashville, I guess, because they liked the sounds they were getting and working with some of these fantastic musicians. One of these musicians was a guy named Neil Matthews. And he was, if a memory serves, he was one of the backup singers for Elvis. He and his vocal group, the Jordanaires.
Okay.
And they kind of came up with this whole Nashville Number System. And it was later kind of improved by Charlie McCoy. Now, Charlie McCoy, I'm a big fan of the band Ween.
Yeah.
Okay? They did this album called 12 Golden Country Hits, 12 Golden Country Greats, or something like that. And then Ween actually went to Nashville and recorded with all these Nashville musicians. Now, Ween's a really kind of weird, far-out band, right?
Yeah.
But this album was just spectacularly produced. And it sounds so fantastic, and it's really legit country music.
Wow.
Yeah, and Charlie McCoy is one of the musicians on this. And I was reading an article, and they were actually talking about the Nashville Number System. They were talking about how Charlie McCoy was showing them, you know, using it and stuff like that. So that's kind of cool, man. He played the harmonica on one of their songs, or actually a lot of the stuff he played bass on and harmonica. But so what is this deal with the Nashville Number System? It's basically kind of what we just looked at with Roman numerals, but instead of Roman numerals, they're just using standard numbers.
Okay.
Right. But it's a little bit, I don't know, man. Looking at it and comparing it to the chord charts that I know, it seems a little weird at first.
Yeah.
But I think
bet.
ultimately it can be a little more simple. I'm going to direct your attention to Angel Band 4. This is actually the Nashville Number System. Now, I'll go ahead and say right off, there are no bar lines here. There's no measures being depicted here. But we're still using the numbers. So we got the 1 here at the beginning. That would be the G.
Right.
Now, you see here we have the 4 and the 1 underlined.
With a little underline, yeah.
So the 1 before that is a measure.
It's assumed to be a measure.
Exactly.
Okay.
You see a number, you kind of assume it to be a measure.
Okay.
We know that we're in 6/4. I didn't put that on this thing, but...
Well, yeah, I honestly wouldn't even have to if you're a good enough musician to just say, to know where the downbeat is.
To know where the downbeat is,
Yeah.
Exactly, yeah. And we talked about that in our Odd Time Signatures episode.
We did.
And our Rhythm episode.
We did.
But anyways, yeah, it's just kind of interesting because it seems to be there's so much less information, and yet it's still all there.
And yet it's still, yeah, so it's kind of funny in how it says a lot with very, very little.
Yeah. Now, while we're looking at this, I want to show you something else kind of interesting. The reason I decided to go to 6 instead of staying on 1, because I wanted to show you, point out this little thing here at the end of the song when we went to that minor chord, the minor 6 chord. You see here, it's underlined 1, 6. There's a little minus sign or a dash by the 6. That little dash is minor.
Means it's a minor chord.
It's a minor
Play
chord.
E minor, not E major.
So all these numbers here, you don't see dashes. We're not using lowercase or uppercase.
Yeah.
We're just using regular numbers, but that's how you know major from minor. If there's no dash, it's just assumed major.
It's just, if there's no dash, it's just assumed a major. So what if you were in a minor key?
That's a good question, man.
Would they all just have dashes?
Yeah,
Or?
that's my understanding based on what I've been seeing, yeah.
So you don't have to know you're a minor key. Just play minor chords because you see dashes. And it'll all work out.
Exactly.
Okay.
That's what I assume anyways. But there's some similar themes here, like the double lines and the double dots and stuff. But there's also kind of a handful of little symbols we should talk about here.
Okay.
And I got to find it.
And really quickly, when you're not in the Nashville system, in one of these other chord chart systems, there's sort of a multitude of different ways people will distinguish whether you're playing a major chord or a minor chord.
Oh yeah.
There are a few that are so ubiquitous that you can make assumptions. Like for example, if you just see a capital letter, then you're probably going to assume you're in a major chord. Some people will designate minor chords with E, lowercase m, as Jeremy did in these chord charts here. That's very, very standard. Some people will have a lowercase letter, meaning a minor, right? And then I have seen where it does not matter what the case of the letter is, but G capital M means major, and then G lowercase m means minor.
Yeah.
And then when you start getting into diminished chords, there are a lot of other things too. And we've talked about some of these, I think. But like a half circle for a little circle superscript
Hanging up on the top, to the top right corner.
Yeah, will typically mean a diminished chord. Not that you see those as often by far, but it will happen. If you see a lowercase d, for example, G and then a lowercase d will mean G diminished.
Interesting.
Yeah, plus sign usually means augmented, or G, AUG as a superscript, AUG period.
I've seen AUG and I've seen DIM for diminished.
Yeah, I've seen DIM period too.
Actually, just write that out.
Yeah, so there's a lot of little things like that are variations, but they're all pretty intuitive. I mean, I've seen some where like a 7 chord means a triangle. I was going
to ask about that. I think it's a major 7 chord.
Yeah, I think it's a major 7 chord that sometimes they'll have a little triangle there because 7 just means minor 7.
Well, major minor 7, right?
Major minor 7. Yeah. So dominant 7.
Yeah.
But if you want to play a major 7. Then you get that little triangle. So there's some things to be careful of. There's some things to watch out for.
Yeah.
But just as an aside, and of course in the Nashville number system, there's the dash.
Yes, and let's continue with these funny little symbols. There's another thing you'll run into sometimes, a diamond, which basically just looks like a little diamond, right?
Yeah.
you're supposed to let it ring. That's where you just kind of let the note ring out.
Let the note ring out. Okay.
When you see a little diamond hanging out. There's something that looks kind of like, well, you have the number of whatever chord it is, but you'll have an up arrow hanging over it. I don't even know what you call this symbol.
Like a carrot, or
it's like a carrot, but it's like facing up like that.
Oh, so like in classical theory, that's the scale degree sign. Right?
Yeah,
okay,
very much.
Yeah.
But it says in that case you choke the chord.
Meaning just
cut it off,
okay.
I guess, yeah. Like we said, we got the triangle for the major 7. We got this little dash for the minor, flat 3rd, for the minor.
Yeah, yep.
Okay, now let me see what this is all about. Oh, they include figured bass symbols in country in the Nashville Number System.
Okay.
I didn't have any of that on my paper because I didn't use any figured bass.
Right.
But
root position for the win.
If you see like a 1/3 in the key of G major, that'll mean you got a G with a B or the 3rd in the bass. That means that you're going to invert it.
You're in first inversion, yeah. And if you've been listening to us and our previous episodes, we talk all about figured bass and those symbols and things. So
exactly. So these are just kind of a even more kind of simple way to suggest play this chord.
Yeah.
/ this letter, this note is going to be in the bass.
Yeah. So if you're a bass player, you kind of learn to play that left note.
Yeah.
Or that right note, rather. Sorry. Yeah.
And then you'll see the fermata symbol, which means you just basically end it. That's kind of where you end it and hold the chord, the kind of big ending kind of thing.
Yeah, and hold it for longer than it would normally sound.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now, this other thing we can run into in the Nashville Number System is a caret.
Mm-hmm.
Not that one would eat, but it actually looks like a greater than or less than symbol.
Right. Yeah.
Now, if it's a less than symbol to the left of the chord, to the left of the number, that means you're going to anticipate. So you're going to actually hit it on the upbeat.
A little bit before the beat.
A little bit before the beat.
Okay.
Now, if the caret symbol is looking greater than and facing and on the other side, the right side of the number, that means that you're going to hold it off a little
hold
bit.
it. Yeah.
So it's kind of syncopation suggestion.
Yeah. So it's syncopation. So like it by anticipating, you're actually coming in on the beat before. So like you're coming in on the 4 rather than the 1. You see that.
Or the 4.5 or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Pretty interesting stuff. Huh?
Relying on your instincts a lot. All of these were kind of relying on your musical instincts a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So relying on you to hear, around you and be sort of musically aware and do the appropriate thing. They're not exact instructions.
Yeah.
And really, traditional sheet music is also not exact instructions. There's a lot of room for interpretation there too.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
So, all right.
So, for a recap, what I would recommend you do, if you can sit through it, if you can stand it, go back and listen to our recording we did earlier.
Yes.
And follow along on the Nashville Number System. Follow along on the regular chord chart. Check out the beats, the rhythms on example 3. Example 2. Yeah, example 2.
Mm-hmm. And, follow along on the lead sheet.
Yeah. And then, get yourself a books. Maybe you have some favorite artists. Does anyone even go and buy books anymore at the stores? Or you just get everything you need?
I don't know, man.
Online?
I'm old. Yeah. I know that.
Yeah. Well, I have some really great books that have the lead sheets, and I've held on to them after all these years.
Me too. I still have my the real book,
Uh-huh.
whose name, of course, was a play on the fake book. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I was trying to remember. Is it the real book or the fake book?
Yeah, no, it's the one I had was called the real book, the jazz real book. Being this is the real stuff, man. This is not
the one that we used with Cleve.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
That's what I thought. Yeah, the real book.
Yeah. So, but I still have that, and I still drag that out every now and then. But whatever your method of procuring lead sheets are, go. I know that there are physical books full of lead sheets at every guitar store in America.
Yeah.
Go check some out. Go buy one for your instrument. Go online, and go download some and try playing along with some songs.
Yeah.
It is an invaluable skill to have.
Yep. To be able to make them, to be able to read them.
Yeah. If you can read them, you greatly increase your gigging potential as a musician.
Boom. That's one thing we should have. Yeah. That's the biggest thing. That's the biggest deal of this whole thing, man. You'll get so much more work, and you'll get so much more confidence from your other musicians.
Yeah. You'll be seen more as a person who knows what they're doing.
And it's almost like if you can't read a chart, people are like,
why can't you read a chart?
Yeah.
Because it's like these things are designed to be simple, right? So if you don't, if you're not good at it, people kind of give you an eye roll a little bit, Like,
okay,
man, like why not?
I can get by with not being able to play Liszt on the fly from the notation I see.
Right? Yeah.
I'll catch a break, but I might not catch a break if I can't do 1, 4, and 5 on a chord chart.
Exactly. You might catch less of a break with that. And so reading that ups your potential as a gigging musician. Being able to write them, exponentially increases the potential repertoire for your music group. If you can write chord charts and they can read them, then basically the world is your oyster as far as what do we want to play.
Oh, so you're saying instead of listening to the song 5 or 6 times,
or 5 or 6,000, yeah,
and trying to memorize it,
yeah, that you could just hear some chord charts, and so now maybe we stick out the chord charts, maybe we listen to it once, and now maybe we've got it.
Boom,
right?
Yeah.
That is extremely helpful. You can get paid. People don't know how to do this, believe it or not, and people will pay you to write chord charts. I have been given money.
Are you serious?
Yes. Huh. Yes, people have paid me money to write chord charts for them. This is a thing that has happened.
So there you go. There's another career opportunity.
Absolutely.
A chord chartist.
Yeah, lead sheets in particular. If your ear is good enough that you can like take a recording and approximate the melody pretty good and then put the chords over it, because people just can't do that off of just audio, right? So like if you can take if somebody has a CD, they want to hire some musicians to play it live, you say, well, I'll make up some lead sheets for you. You have a skill that they can't get anywhere else, Right. So now you're in a little bit of a name your price scenario here, right?
Very cool.
So yeah, knowing how to do these is invaluable. Knowing how to read them, and being as familiar with as many different types as possible, because you never know what you're going to run into out there. You may be playing with somebody who lived in Nashville for 20 years and he uses the Nashville system.
Yeah.
So you'll need to be familiar enough with that. You may be playing with somebody who just sketched it out before practice. And that's just sort of basic chord chart thing. Or you may be playing with people who say, we're just going to play all of this stuff from this fake book. And
Or maybe you're having lunch at the In-N-Out and your sister needs you to make a chord chart and all you have is a napkin. And you do it on the napkin and take a picture of it and send it to her.
Yeah. True story. I worked at a restaurant once back in a previous life, and it was the 4th of July. And it was an Italian restaurant, so nobody was going to eat at an Italian restaurant on the 4th of July, right? Everybody was out grilling hot dogs and stuff.
Freedom fries, baby.
Yeah. So it was dead, but so a couple of people wanted to just sing Star Spangled Banner for like the 5 people that were in there.
Oh, yeah?
And I'm like, okay, well, what are the chorus of Star Spangled Banner? And I kind of thought, okay, all right, well... and I sat down and wrote out a little lead sheet where I wrote the melody of Star Spangled Banner, with and then put some basic chords on top of that, made a little lead sheet, handed it to this guy who was going to play it on the guitar, and this girl who was going to sing it, and they just kind of now go sing Star Spangled Banner,
dude.
And,
and they got all the glory.
They got all the glory, yeah.
And you just kind of.
Yeah, I was the one who was behind on cleaning my section up now, but...
But you got that, it's like peeing on yourself in a wetsuit. You get that warm feeling inside, and no one seems to notice.
Right.
On that note, is that a great note to end?
That's a good note to end it on. Let's end it right there.
Yeah. Hey, thanks again for listening, everybody. Thanks again, our people who are writing in and
yes, thank you so much.
Sharing your stories.
Keep bringing us the feedback. We're doing this for you. So, if there are things you want us to hear, questions you want us to answer, let us know.
All right. Till next time, guys.
See you soon.
There's a lot more to say about chord charts, so we'll bring them up again in the near future. If you need clarification about anything covered in this episode, or have any requests for future discussion, you can email us at info@musicstudent101.com.